Hello, everyone. I am Matthew John. I am a spiritual teacher, intuitive healer, quantum energy healer, starseed guide, and a spiritual mentor working directly with the Ascended Masters. And the topic of this discussion is how to ground into the fifth dimension. How do we ground into the fifth dimension? This is one of my favorite things, and it's very, very relevant for where we are at astrologically right now. We've just had this new moon in Taurus, and Taurus is an extremely grounded sign, a very earthy sign. It's perhaps the most grounded of all the signs. So grounding is really, really important right now. And especially over the past few days, if you're watching this live or within a day or two of when I first broadcast this, we've been having solar flares over and over and over again for about the past 4 days, non-stop solar flares. And you may have been feeling a bit ungrounded. You may be feeling a bit out of it. You may be feeling tired. You may be feeling wired. I tend to get all of these symptoms. I tend to get oscillations between feeling really tired and really wired. I tend to sleep either really deeply or sleep kind of strangely. And these are all ascension symptoms that come as a result of the solar flares, and also when the geomagnetic storms come, or when the Schumann resonance really, that's another thing that's been happening over the past 4-5 days, but really it's been happening just more and more over the past few months, especially, where almost every day now is a day where the Schumann resonance is not really at its normal, or not what it used to be. You know, it used to be something that was pretty static, and now it's constantly just up and down, up and down. You'll see all kinds of whiteouts and blackouts with the Schumann, and so there's a lot going on energetically speaking, and the energies just seem to keep getting ramped up and up as time goes on. It's not something that's going to stop. It won't. You know, a lot of times I wish it would. I know we all do. We all want to. It's just like, oh, can we get a break? But we get breaks. We get breaks here and there when our body feels like, oh, like suddenly I feel like kind of great, right? And then you'll get those days when you feel like you really got to relax or you got to sleep more. So the number one most important thing about grounding into 5D is to really honor what our physical bodies are going through, because as I say in my video that's titled The 3 Simultaneous Ascension Processes, one of those 3 processes is the physical ascension journey. It's the physical ascension journey where each and every cell and each and every organ has to be totally reborn, and it doesn't happen instantly. It happens over time, and it takes a long time. It might take decades, you know. It may not. It may take a little shorter than that, but it takes a long time. It doesn't take days. It takes years or decades. So we have to really honor that, and when our body feels like it needs more sleep. Sleep is the number one most important thing for the physical ascension, is sleep, because our bodies really just need time to, you know, when we're sleeping and we're traveling off in the astral plane, it's when our physical body can really integrate all of the energy, and all those upgrades can really take place on a physical level. It happens while we're asleep. So honoring your need for sleep is the number one thing when it comes to physical grounding. And number 2, just as essential, is nature. You know, it's not something that we can kind of put on the back burner anymore. It's not. As ascending beings, nature it's a necessity. It's as essential as sleep. It's as essential as good food and good water. Is nature, is getting out into nature, because when you're out in nature, you're literally reconnecting with yourself. You're literally reconnecting with yourself. Nature is our nature. I love to say that because, you know, the English, if you haven't noticed, the English language, you can tell that this wasn't just a language that was written by a couple guys that didn't know what they were doing. This was a language channeled by God, this was a channeled language. This is everything in the English language is you can see the connections between everything, right? And nature, they have 2 different meanings, but the same word. Well, it's because nature is your nature. Your nature is to be in nature. That's when we reconnect with ourselves, because nature, Mother Nature, is just always is. It always is. It's never in a rush. Think about that. Nature is never in a rush. Think about, if you live in a place where you have 4 seasons, how long it takes before the trees start blooming. They're not in a rush. They know when March rolls around, it's not really spring yet. It may say spring on the calendar, right? But it's not really spring. And, then 2 months later in May, finally everything starts to bloom. Nature's in no rush ever. Nature always takes its time. Nature never doubts itself. A tree never doubts its ability to bloom. A plant never doubts its ability to grow. An animal doesn't doubt its ability to forage for food or to hunt for food if it needs to. Nature doesn't have any of the self-doubt, any of the mind chatter going on that we as humans have to deal with and have to learn how to transcend over time. Nature is, if you go to a park that really hasn't been, formed by man, that hasn't been excessively mowed and landscaped and all that, you're really connecting with the divine template of life. It's just, this is what creation creates, is it creates itself on its own. The intention of creation, this is getting really deep, but the intention of creation, when a planet is created, perhaps it's just a template, right? And then the creations are allowed to form on their own. And if you look at like a place in the forest, like in California, where there's a lot of fires, a place that is, the earth is just scorched, and for maybe a year or two, it'll kind of look nasty and like it was just scorched, and then eventually an entire new forest grows, just naturally, right? So that nature is our nature, and we have to honor that. We have to honor our need. It's a necessity. It's not something that is a luxury anymore to get out into nature. It's a necessity. And if you live in a big city, there's always options. If you live in Manhattan, you can go to Central Park, right? If you live in Brooklyn, there's Prospect, but there's so many parks. Chicago, there's so many parks. Even L.A., it's surrounded by mountains and hills, and so there really isn't much of an excuse anymore, unless, I understand time. Of course, everyone's busy, everyone works, but make time. Make some time. Take 2 hours out of your week. Make it a priority, 2 hours a week at least, to get out into nature. Even an hour a week, if you can't do 2 hours, an hour a week. Get out into nature. It's really, really, and if you're in a warm climate, take your shoes off, put your bare feet either, on the floor of the forest or in the beach, in the sand, to really connect yourself, get those negative ions going. And it's great, even if you have a yard, just to take your shoes off, of course, and ground into the yard. Even if you're in a suburban or even an urban area, the energy from the ground isn't as pure, perhaps, as if you're out in a forest or by the ocean, but it's better than nothing. So make sure you're doing that. Make sure we're physically grounding. The other parts of physically grounding is water, of course. You may notice that on days when the solar flares hit or the energy seems really intense, you just are more thirsty. Well, we need more water. You really just listen to your body as far as how much hydration you need, and even go a little extra. You should be peeing all the time, basically. You should be peeing a lot. That's a good sign, especially if your urine is clear, that means you're pretty well hydrated. And it's a feeling. It's a feeling of like, oh, I finally feel hydrated. So work on that. Lemon water in the morning is a great idea to get yourself going. Celery juice, the medical medium celery juice is great. Cucumber juice, fantastic. Any other juices you like? Like a celery apple or a cucumber apple, kale, spinach juice. Like those are all wonderful because, and melons. Melons are so full of water, and it's so full of minerals and vitamins, very absorbable by your body. So hydration, sleep, nature. Those are the three basics. And sunlight. Sunlight is also essential for grounding into the 5D grid, because sunlight, again, we're connecting with our nature. We're connecting with ourselves. The sun is the source of all energy. We know that. Science knows it's the source of all energy, because plants produce chlorophyll from the sun. Then the animals eat the plants to get that source of energy, that ATP, right? And then, we eat the plants, and some of us still eat animals too, and that's fine. And so, but it all comes from the sun. The source of all energy on this planet is the sun. So we really do need to connect with the sun. And if you live in a place like I do, where there's a lot of chemtrails, where you don't get a lot of sunny days, you really got to take advantage of it when you can. Up here in New York, we don't really see the sun too much in the winter months at all. There'll be weeks with no sun. So when spring rolls around, it's like, oh, I'm out there whenever I can, just basked out, like, oh, I need this, right? So really make sure we're getting sunlight. No sunscreen. You don't want to wear sunscreen. If you do need to wear sunscreen, you want to get it from a health food store. No heavy metals in it. But to really get the vitamin D production going in your body, you want to do without sunscreen, which means if you're in a hot place like Southern California or something, it's got to be like 8 in the morning, I know, or else you're going to fry yourself. You don't want to burn your skin. That's not healthy either. You don't want to burn your skin. But we do need to be getting sunlight. 10 to 20 minutes 5 times a week is ideal. So sunlight, hydration, sleep, and nature. So those are the 5 basics of physical grounding. Now I want to talk about another type of grounding into the 5D grid that's just as important. Perhaps I would say the primary thing that's very important is the actual grounding part. The physical side of things is extremely important because we are physical beings. We're spiritual beings having a physical experience, but that also means by proxy we're physical beings, doesn't it? Right? I mean, you can deny all you want being a physical being, but you still go to the bathroom, right? So, checkmate with that one, right? But, so the physical side of things is very important. Also, the other side of things that I like to call moving from illusion into reality. So, what I've discovered is that the 5th dimensional reality of things is exactly that. It's reality. While the 3D reality, so to speak, is in many ways more of an illusion, as far as it being somewhat devoid of spiritual values. So when we start to get on this ascension path and we begin to move further and further along from 3D into 5D, and if you've watched me before, you'll know that I like to let people know that we're constantly oscillating between the 3D and the 5D. And this is natural. It's totally natural for us to experience 1 minute in the 3D and 1 minute in the 5D. And there's a misconception about it's either you're in 3D or you're in 5D, and that's not how it works. It's like this. You can create sounds that are in between notes, right? There's an A sharp, right, and a B flat between A and B. So it's a progression. It's a progression. So there's a progression of frequencies. There's different levels of the 3rd dimension. There's different levels of the 5th dimension. So that's a part of it. But the reality is we're always oscillating back and forth between 3D and 5D, and that's okay. You find yourself really in joy and gratitude and love and appreciation and feeling wonderful and really open-hearted 1 minute, and then 5 minutes later you find yourself feeling depressed. And that's okay. It's okay because every time you're diving back into the 3D, a lot of times what's going on is that you're really just purging. And I saw someone write that in the comments, is emotional purging. That's what's happening. You're really just, the energy is moving through. So we're constantly diving back and forth, but we can also find ourselves getting stuck. So that's the thing. We can find ourselves getting stuck in the 3rd dimensional vibration. We can actually find ourselves on a downward spiral of consciousness. And that's when we start becoming more aware, we can snap out of it and start to create an upward, positive spinning spiral of consciousness. And you want to talk about law of attraction. What's going to really help to put you to that timeline where all the things that you really want are going to come at you possibly faster. Possibly. It's that positive spiral that you're creating. Positive spiral of consciousness. So you can. We do have the willpower to move ourselves from a place of depression to 5 seconds later, you can move yourself to gratitude. You always can. You always have that power. 100% of the time, you have the power to be grateful. And as soon as you express gratitude, be it out loud or typing it or in your head, you are moving to a fifth dimensional frequency, because gratitude is a fifth dimensional frequency. Joy is a fifth dimensional frequency. Celebration, service is the highest vibration of 5D. Unconditional service, unconditional love, working together, that Aquarian type of energy. These are all unity consciousness. These are all the vibrations of 5D. So we can always choose to move to those higher vibrations. And it takes awareness. The number one thing that is required to shift anything in your life, whether it be something that you've held on inside for 30 years that needs to be healed, or something that just a mood, it's willpower. You have the willpower. We all have the willpower to move up levels of consciousness whenever we desire. And but the number one thing that's required for that willpower is awareness. That's the word. Awareness of, I'm listening to some thoughts right now that aren't really the highest vibrational thoughts. So what can I do about it? I can move to gratitude. The first step when working with thoughts, the first thing is the awareness that your thoughts are not necessarily yours. And it's a weird awakening when you realize that. But just, even if you're not ready to buy that totally yet, just take that and ruminate with it. What if that were true? What if it were true that 100% of your thoughts are not even yours? I'm not saying all of your thoughts aren't yours, but a lot of them aren't. A lot of your thoughts aren't. And it's because of the existence of something called T-fields. And if you'd like to read more about T-fields, I suggest checking out the really awesome book called The Subtle Body by Cindy Dale. It's a must-have book for any energy healers or any aspiring energy healers, or just people who want to learn more about the energetic systems of being human. It's really an awesome book. T-fields are actual fields that surround our energy body, and they carry the frequency of thoughts. And our thoughts will match those frequencies and manifest as thoughts. But they're not actually coming from inside our head. They're coming from outside of us in our energy field. And a lot of what's in the T field are thoughts from other people. They're thoughts from our parents, even if we haven't seen them in 40 years, we're still carrying around those thoughts. There are thoughts from our partner. There are thoughts from the collective consciousness. They're thoughts from the collective. Have you ever had the experience as an empath or a highly sensitive person of being in a conversation with someone and immediately you feel your energy drop? Well, that's because their T fields are kind of then permeating into your T fields, and you're getting kind of this mucus of consciousness, and you might all of a sudden be thinking some thoughts that are not so high vibrational. Likewise, have you ever had the experience of being around someone who's really positive or really charismatic, really high energy, or just a really positive person? All of a sudden you feel uplifted, right? You feel clearer. You feel like your thoughts are really nice all of a sudden. And that's, again, because of that permeation of the T fields. So, and as an empath, it's really important for us to learn energetic boundaries and to learn so we're not absorbing other stuff. That's something that takes some practice, but it's a really important thing that we learn over time, is how do we not absorb, especially if you're a healer, how are we not absorbing other people's stuff? And it's something that's very manageable and very, very doable. And in fact, you don't have to be absorbing other people's stuff at all. You don't, and I can tell you that you don't. You absolutely don't. It's just something that takes some practice. So when we are working with thoughts, the awareness that we're starting to have thoughts, or the awareness that, first of all thoughts might not be ours. And then the second awareness could be that we don't have to actually listen to any thoughts that we don't want to. You are not required to listen to any thoughts that you don't want to. Because Could it be true that you're not thinking, you're actually listening? And if you think right now, see, now this is using your conscious willpower to think, but if you think about what is thinking, and think about a time when you're like walking alone and you're just, the thoughts are going in your head, are you really thinking or are you listening? You'll find that you're actually listening. And if it's true that you're listening, then you don't actually have to listen to anything you don't want to. You can turn the radio dial. You can change the station. You have that power. Absolutely. One thing that I'll use if the thoughts start to be spiraling somewhere that is not very high vibrational, whether it's self-judgment or whether it's doubting myself or worry or fear or anything like that, I'll say no. I'll say no to myself. No. No, I'm not listening to that. And it's gone. Because you're using your conscious willpower. You choose. You choose your thoughts. And then you can turn your attention. You can turn your attention to something more positive, or you can express gratitude. Gratitude is the one vibration. That's why gratitude is such a pure fifth dimensional vibration. It's the one vibration that shifts anything. Gratitude will energetically shift anything. And the moment you start expressing gratitude, even if it's your own mind, all the negative thoughts, they can't sustain because gratitude is too high of a vibration. So when we remember to express gratitude, and it's just thank you for whatever. It's even thank you for these negative thoughts so I can have practice in not listening to them. Thank you for these negative thoughts to show where I'm moving out of. Thank you for feeling like shit right now because it's showing me how I need to care for, it's teaching me to care for my body more deeply. Thank you for feeling like crap today and like I don't want to leave my bed because it's allowing me to do some other things that I wouldn't have done if I had gone to work. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to have to go reconnect with nature because I feel the solar flares. Thank you for this opportunity. Anytime you use those words, thank you for this opportunity, you'll actually find that everything is always an opportunity. There's no exceptions at all. Even death is an opportunity. Death is always an opportunity. Everything is an opportunity because this is the reality. This is another part of reality that I want to talk about. Grounding into the 5D grid means grounding into reality. Grounding into reality means moving into the reality that everything is only here to help you and that there are no mistakes. Everything is by design. This is all written out. You do have free will, but it's still all written out, and it's all for your highest good. It's all for the highest development of your spiritual self, of your soul. There are no mistakes. You're exactly where you need to be. And the present moment is king. The present moment is your salvation. The present moment is reality. The present moment is reality. When you ground into the present, you find yourself grounding into the 5D. If you look over the course of human history, and you just read history books or watch the History Channel, you'll find that you can pretty much decipher that most of humanity has spent most of its existence not really existing in the present moment. Because if they were, there wouldn't be that desire so much to conquer and to get ahead of things and to take over, right? And I know I'm generalizing here, and obviously there have been a lot of, especially in the indigenous cultures, that have really specialized in that and really showing us that 5D vibration. You know, again, 5D it's something that is not as cut and dry. It's not that, oh, now that we're in the photon belt, you know, everyone is in 5D now, or yes, once I get to 5D, it's like the door back to 3D closes. It's not how it works. 5D is an aggregation of all of the spiritual principles of 5D, and those are gratitude, unconditional love, hurting no beings, present moment, in the present moment, being present, honoring oneself, honoring thy brother. These are the type of vibrations. unity amongst peoples, unity amongst all beings, abundance, all beings thriving, all beings not just surviving but thriving. When I take people on the starseed discovery journeys and they go to a higher dimensional planet like Sirius, I know Sirius is a star system, but a planet in that system, or the Pleiades, or had someone recently who's a Mantis starseed, and go to that planet, which is pretty cool. And what we find is that all of the plants and animals and the beings are all working together very harmoniously, and there's no strife. There's no war. The animals aren't eating each other anymore. That was a really fascinating thing for me to see when someone had recently gone to one of the Mantis planets, is that the animals weren't eating each other. They were all just eating plants now. So that vibration of duality that has been a marker of the third dimension, in the fifth dimension, when we move from duality into non-dual, that whole thing of competition for resources evaporates. So when we talk about abundance, when we talk about, well, how do I bring more money if I want more money, or how do I bring more of whatever else I want into my life? If we think about 3D as being duality, and duality means competition, 5D is non-duality, and there is no competition because there's just unlimited everything. So the reality is that everything is unlimited. The reality of life is that all resources are unlimited, because all matter is energy. It's all spiritually based. So it's all unlimited. Fresh water is unlimited. Money is unlimited. Money's fake anyways. Food is unlimited. It's just that as a collective, we haven't gotten to that point yet where we all really believe that. But as the light workers, when we start to believe that more and more, I know a lot of you can relate, I can relate, you start to see it manifest for real in your own life, where you're not really worrying about money anymore all of a sudden. And it's amazing, because you recognize that it's unlimited. You recognize it's just a spiritual value, it's just energy. So when we bring that into our daily lives of just moving from competition, and competition can manifest as also jealousy. When we're feeling jealous, that is not necessarily the highest vibration. Jealousy has a lot of positive things that it can teach us. For one, it's showing us where we want to be. It's showing us that, hey, if I'm jealous of someone else, it's because I want to have what they're having, right? But also the underlying energy of it is that I don't feel like there's enough for everyone. So I want what they want. And that's the energy of competition. That's the energy of, you think about animals that are fighting for resources out in the wild. That's that very dualistic type of, from that into unity where all resources are unlimited. And we will find that all fresh water becomes unlimited on the planet. We will find that. And it'll probably happen by, we will in the future, as a conscious planet, be developing all of the technology. I'm sure the technology already exists, but we will have the technology to clean up all of the fresh water on the planet. And spiritually, we will transmute it as well. We will be using our third eye. I mean, I do this and I really recommend you guys doing this exercise. It's a wonderful exercise in service. Every time you go to a natural place of water, is you visualize spreading violet light out of your hands, or even just out of your third eye, into all the waterway, and to intend that all toxins be transmuted into light. I do this every time I go to the woods, or anytime I'm by a body of water, because especially where I am, up in New York State, it's like the waters are so polluted. And so I'm just doing my part, as a service worker. So, and service being that high vibration of 5D. Every time you find yourself being of service, and being of service from the heart, not being of service as an obligation. If you ever do not desire to be of service, then you're not truly being of service. Think about that. In order for you to be truly being of service, there must be a desire to be of service. So every time I am working with someone, I am of the desire I'm desiring to do it. If I didn't, I wouldn't. I'm always desiring whatever I'm doing as far as my service work. So that alignment of desire and service, that is true service work. And service is one of the truest vibrations of 5D. To me, it's the highest vibration of 5D, because service is what creates the ascension. What accomplishes the ascension is service. And as light workers, we're being of service in one way or another. We're always being of service anyways, because as we're feeling the ascension symptoms, it's also an indication that our bodies are being used as channels for energy to come through from above and from the sun and to ground into the grid. And we're like these little towers, like these cell phone towers, that our physical bodies are grounding the energy and the light into the grid. And we're all here for a purpose. Our life plans all intersect as light workers, and we're all right where we need to be, helping the ascension program. But we're also at the same time oscillating between 5D and 3D, and that's how it's meant to be. But we're moving more and more into really, in earnest, all of the light workers being more and more in 5D, right? Service. So here's how we move from illusion into reality. Service, and true service out of desire. It's gratitude, okay? It is laughter. Laughter is a big one, because in 3D, life seems very dense and serious. Very serious. Very muddy, almost. Like you're just trudging along, and everything is very, very serious and tense. That's that kind of shadow side of 3D. 5D, everything is light, and it's not as big of a deal. Life and death. I know this sounds strange, but in the 5D, we recognize the cycles of life and death. We recognize the cycles of all things, the cycles of nature. We look to nature. We look to nature to see, wow, in winter, everything dies, and in spring, it's reborn. And just like the cycles of our life, it's the same thing. So we lose a job, that's the death, and then we create a new business. That's the rebirth. A relationship ends, a breakup happens. That's the death. And we find ourselves. We like being single all of a sudden. That's the spring. And then the summer, we're in a new relationship, right? If you see the what I'm alluding to there. And the other thing is that when we're, like breakups, for example, I work with a lot of people who are going through breakups. I don't know why, it just tends to happen. But to me, from the perspective of 5D, a breakup isn't even a great word. A decoupling is a better word, and it's a celebration. In reality, it's always a celebration. Always. The way your higher self sees any relationship ending, it's a celebration, because it's the culmination of the soul contract. And at the culmination of the soul contract, it's a celebration. It's like you completed. It's like if you completed your work contract, if you're an independent contractor, you completed some contract, and then all of a sudden you have a celebration with wine and cake and friends for celebrating it. That's how your soul, that's how your higher self sees relationships ending. It's how they see it, because that's the truth of it. The truth is it's a celebration. And so if you can see that, it makes things just so much easier, and it makes it easier to just move from winter into spring, to realize the cycles of life and that it's okay. So it's so incredible when you align yourself, and perhaps, hopefully even just through this transmission of words and energy, you can feel that vibration of 5D where everything's okay. In 5D, everything's okay no matter what. And no matter what, there's nothing that is an exception to that rule. Even through pain, even through physical pain, the reality is everything's okay. There is that part of you that recognizes that this is all okay, and it's all meant to be. And it doesn't mean it lasts forever. It doesn't mean it lasts forever. It can change at any moment. And you can do whatever you need to do to help yourself get from physical pain into feeling better. Absolutely. Absolutely. And you should. You should. But it just like winter into spring, into summer, into fall, into winter. It's the natural rhythms of life. And so in 5D, we can really recognize that and embrace that. We really embrace that things change. We embrace that nothing is permanent. The impermanence of all things. Because then, again, if everything is impermanent, it's not so dense and heavy, is it? If you realize that even relationships, even your life, even your physical body is impermanent, right? Even if you're immortal, and perhaps a lot of us are becoming immortal, we still may choose at some point to leave the physical body and move on to another realm. That's what we found with a lot of the higher dimensional races that a lot of us starseeds come from, is that they don't actually need to die, but they'll choose to leave their physical body to do something else, after 1,000 years, for example, or 500 years. And just really honoring the impermanence of all things, that means you're living in reality. That's reality. Reality is everything is impermanent. Reality is life is magical and all things are meant to be exactly as they are. You're exactly where you need to be and all is well. And you might even feel now, like I feel, that there's no even space for thoughts because there's no reason for thoughts. When you're really in that 5D vibration, when you're grounded into the 5D like I feel now, there's no reason for thoughts to even listen to because it's from that space of everything's already perfect. And that's where we really have the power to create. That's where we really have the power to create our projects, our businesses, a new relationship, better health. From that space of everything is always and already perfect as it is, but as the co-creator, playing in this 5D field and playing in the 3D field when I need to, boom, I'm creating the life I really want. And you really have power. You have that power to move and to create from that space of 5D. You really do. So I hope this clears up some things for everyone. Basically, the one thing I forgot to mention is relaxing your nervous system is another really important thing to understand. Our nervous system is what determines, in a way, our vibration as well, because when your nervous system is relaxed, when you feel yourself slowing down, when you feel relaxed, safe, you can be sure you're in the parasympathetic nervous system, which is what allows the higher dimensional faculties to come online. When you're asleep, you're in the parasympathetic nervous system clearly because you're... Tell me if I'm wrong. If anyone's a doctor out there, and tell me if I'm wrong with that, but it would seem that while you're asleep, you're in parasympathetic state because you're obviously relaxed enough that you're sleeping and that you're off somewhere playing in the astral plane. And like I said, that's when the upgrades happen. That's when the physical upgrades can really happen. So when we're breathing, we always got to remember to breathe. Have to remember to breathe, always. Breathing exercises are really fantastic. If you can take some time each morning to do just like 2 minutes of deep abdominal breathing, put your hand over your belly and just... When you really try to lengthen the exhale, through the nose is best. If you ever feel really stressed, then try this. You take a deep breath. And breathe out through the mouth, but kind of purse your lips and really extend the exhale. So when we lengthen the exhale, that's what really relaxes the nervous system. So, because a lot of people, when they breathe deeply, they'll just do like a short, deep... You don't want to do like a short thing. You want to... Fullness. You want to try to lengthen the exhale. And try to lengthen the inhale as well. So breathing exercises are great. Herbs. Herbs are fantastic if you feel stressed. CBD, lemon balm, lavender, magnesium. These are all really great options. I use all of them when I need to. Colloidal gold. Colloidal gold is another fantastic one. That will really help you mentally kind of ground into the 5D. All right, everyone. So thank you. So if you haven't already been to my website, it's youaredivinehuman.org, all spelled out, youaredivinehuman.org, and you can check out what I offer. The one thing that I have, two things that I'm really offering this week is, one is my spiritual mentoring program. So I have some space, and I don't always have space for this month, but I do have space still left for May for my spiritual mentoring program. And what that is, it's either a 4, 5, or 6 session package. You work with me one-on-one, whether over the phone or Skype, wherever you are in the world, and you get a lot with it. You get a soul plan reading, which is I'm connecting in with your spirit guides to read your life plan, to read the soul meanings, the soul lessons behind everything you've been through and everything you're going through right now, and what you really need to focus on. You know, what is the spiritual meaning behind what you're going through? What do you need to learn from this? That's the soul plan reading. And also your future. I get a look at your future, and I get a sense of, you know, where you're going, the highest possible expression, what that highest possible expression of your life really looks like in the future. So I get to take a look at that, and it's really pretty fascinating to give you some clarity. We do some intuitive healing and coaching processes and some quantum energy healing, which is really cool. Working on just removing anything you don't need with you, as far as, you know, any little things in your aura, hooks and clamps and all that, and little bugs and parasites, and just really cleaning you up, working on the chakras, healing the aura, closing up any tears and all that. It's really, really powerful. That's all in the first session. It's a 90-minute extended session. The second session, we do the intuitive nutrition reading. I'm connecting in with your guides, and I'm reading what's going on in your physical body and giving you a plan as far as nutrition and supplements that will help you to charge ahead with your physical healing and support your body. Even if you don't have anything, you know, major going on, it's good to know what the best type of diet is for you, and especially for if, you know, you're an ascending being, as you are, you know, what's the best type of diet for that. You get a whole 4 to 6 page protocol to keep with that. You can keep with you. You get a chakra scan, so I'm reading how your chakras are spinning, and we go over what that all means. And you get a chakra report with a bunch of meditations, affirmations, and foods to help with your chakras. I do not use the QHHT. It's different. It's something that has just been created through me as quantum energy healing. So it's a little bit different. The name quantum is in there, but it's not the QHHT. Thank you for asking. Then we do a future life progression for you. So you're traveling forward in your life. It's really cool to experience your highest possible timeline in this lifetime, to experience what it is that your higher self really wants you to bring forth during this lifetime. We do some coaching on your intuition and some direct work on working on your intuition, and we do the starseed discovery session. So you find out what type of starseed you are, and you take a journey to your home planet, which is always the most fun part, really, of the program for a lot of people. Is you travel to your home planet in the astral realm, and it's quite real. It's quite real, and you meet your galactic guides. You get to take a look around your planet, and you get an activation. You really develop a much deeper connection with your starseed itself. So that's all the package A. Package B, you get all that, plus you get a past life regression session. And the past life regression is a little different than what a lot of people do. This is all based on what your higher self wants you to see, and based on what your soul lessons are. So the intention is really to figure out, what is the karma you're balancing in this lifetime? What is the past life? What is the past life origins of the karma you're balancing in this lifetime? And we usually have an opportunity to travel to at least 2 lifetimes. And it's really, really helpful to see, you know, it's like, who was my mom? Who was my partner in that other lifetime? And what is this karma we're balancing? What are the lessons that I'm working on in this lifetime that I also was working through in another lifetime, and perhaps the shadow side of it, now I'm working through the higher dimensional side of it. So it's pretty intricate. So you get that in the 5-session program. The 6-session program, we do an entire sixth session, we can work on abundance work. We can work on more intuition work, more quantum energy healing. There's a lot of different options. And for anyone who's thinking about this and you have the time and it's okay with your resources and all that, and you want to pick out a program, do the 6 if you can, because a lot of times it just gives us more time to really dive into everything very fully. We're not really in a rush. So, and you also get some bonuses. You get free webinars. The package A or B, you get 2 webinars, and package C, you get 6 free webinars. And all these webinars are an hour and a half to 2 hours, and they're really in depth, and they include activations and all that. So, if you're interested in a package, you can either private message me, or you can just go to my website, check them out, youaredivinehuman.org, click on private sessions, click on spiritual mentoring, awakening coaching, and you'll see the package options there. If the package doesn't work for you, I offer all of those types of sessions individually. You can check out all the prices on my website and below, and I'm happy to get back to you. So thank you, everyone. I hope you learned something today, and I remember, just honor your body, and remember, grounding into the 5D is all about moving from illusion to reality. It's into the reality of who we're becoming, conscious beings that are operating from a heart space of unconditional love and service. So until next time, namaste.